welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be here with you every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate you being here inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin'. And inside of today's broadcast, we're going to start the show off in hour number one with our Dolphin Dive, exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our multimedia marketing partnership with the LeMoyne College Dolphins. Today's guest, featuring picture-in-picture live this morning, is Liz Beville, the head coach of the LeMoyne Dolphins women's lacrosse program, and we will be speaking on their return to Division I as one of two teams that in the history of LeMoyne had already been a Division I program, that being women's lacrosse and baseball. We have two returning as the entire college is fully into Division I here in their first campaign this first season of 2023-24. So we'll speak with Liz on the return and a victory upon that return. And then in hour number two, we'll head to the Syracuse basketball side of things and speak with Roosevelt Bouie Jr. about the current state of Syracuse men's basketball, and Roosevelt being one of those early recruits for Jim Boeheim as we get set for Boeheim Day this weekend. So a lot of great stuff coming up here in both hours of the broadcast. And as promised, picture-in-picture here with Liz Beville for Dolphin Dive and women's lacrosse in the return to D1. Liz, how are you?
Doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Liz, first and foremost, I mean, this is a unique situation for the women's lacrosse team because, like I said in the intro, this is a return to Division I for baseball, a return to Division I for women's lacrosse. So when this decision was made for LeMoyne to become a full D1 institution, just what your thoughts were knowing the history of women's lacrosse on the Heights.
Well, I think it was exciting for a lot of our alumni who did start at LeMoyne as Division I players. We had a huge turnout this fall, and part of that was having an alum get inducted into our Gold Wave Hall of Fame. But she brought back a ton of teammates, and you could just really feel the excitement amongst the alums. So I think that's where my initial thoughts went to, is how exciting this was going to be for our alumni base that was Division I at some point. And just from a recruiting standpoint, where we could go with the program, and just knowing that there are so many players that want that Division I experience, and so we've kind of gotten into that a little bit, and that's changed for us. That landscape has changed for us quite a bit. So there were just some exciting things, some unknowns, and just some I guess just kind of the challenge of it was just something that you thought about of okay, how can we make this work? And we've been so successful at D2, but playing at a new level is going to help our, again, recruiting and just a new challenge for our student athletes.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, this new challenge, but something that's not unfamiliar to the program, being one of those beacons that had that D1 history with baseball. Do you feel different as a head coach? I mean, when you see LeMoyne go fully into Division I, do you have a different perspective on it, knowing that women's lacrosse has had success at the Division I level at LeMoyne?
I don't think so. I think that your morals and kind of values as a coach, really should be the same no matter what level you're coaching. And I feel like I've stayed pretty true to that throughout my career so far, even just as an assistant. But I think what we were able to accomplish at Division II was some high level lacrosse and high level of success. And so we want to carry that forward. And I think what we did to achieve that is what you need to do at the Division I level. So there's certainly a different view on it. There might be some different pressures that people feel on it. Obviously, we're in a unique situation, having been D1 and going back and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, it's really about what you're doing day in and day out. And I don't think that has to change. We didn't try to change a lot from what we did at D2, and now we're doing this year at D1. We kind of stayed true to ourselves in that matter.
Yeah, and you spoke about that, and I've spoken with other coaches at LeMoyne about the reality of you didn't recruit for Division II. Mm-hmm. You didn't view yourself as this is our level, this is where we're at, this is where we stop. And I think that's why we've seen success at LeMoyne. Mm-hmm. We've seen moments here already in the Division I move with women's soccer, with men's soccer, with cross country, with swimming and diving, which just had another piece of history happen within the last couple days. We've seen it with men's and women's basketball now. It's not atypical of LeMoyne to have this success. Women's tennis had the first NEC win for the entire school because of the way that you recruit, because of the caliber of coach that's on the heights. Going off of what you were stating here, I feel like it's not strange to anybody on the heights, the level that you ask yourself of. It might be strange to an outsider to say, wow, they're already winning. They beat Cal. They come out, they do this, they do that. This team's going to the postseason. This team's in second place. But for the way that you coach and the way that you recruit, I think, kind of to bang that drum even more so, you've never looked at this as a Division II program or a Division anything program. You've just looked for the best student athletes to build you moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like you said, that's kind of the theme amongst all of our teams. It's not just women's lacrosse or baseball or, that's basketball, that's our fall sports. So I think that's why you've seen the success just in this last year that people really didn't think that we would have. And it's more because of the mentality and the type of people that we bring into the programs.
So for you, like you said, I mean, it's not that you coach differently. It's not that you recruit differently. Was there anything that did change as far as, I know that you're a planner, you like to have things set ahead in advance and whatnot. So obviously with scheduling, you had to, kind of work some things around. But what was a challenge for you when the decision was made to go Division I?
Yeah, the timeline of recruiting was our biggest challenge this fall. The last few years, Division I recruiting has set some deadlines and timelines on things, and which is a positive. But we were just a little bit behind because we weren't anticipating working on that timeline. So that was definitely a challenge. I had transitioned assistant coaches during the summer as well. So, we had to do some work, and the fall was busy for us. We had a lot of recruits on campus and just a lot of phone calls, and not all of them worked out in our favor. And that's okay. We wish the best for everybody, but it took us a little bit longer than we had anticipated to kind of get a class and build that class out. And we're in good shape moving forward now, but that was definitely the biggest kind of challenge right away, just because it was basically September 1st is the date that Division I kind of has out there. And that's kind of our first contact date with recruits. And so that's a quick turnaround from when the announcement was made.
Yeah, so in that recruiting world, like you said, to have a shorter time period and to kind of have to put yourself in a crunch time situation. You said you're okay now. How did you find a way to kind of take something that was adversity and was a shorter window and then turn it into a positive?
Yeah, we just stayed really patient along the process. And we had a good 24 class that we had been working on, and we added some late to that as well, which that was not really out of the norm. That's kind of like the timeline worked out for that class. It was really the 25 class. So, just staying patient, and I think being very vulnerable and transparent with these student athletes. I had a lot of conversations and just said, this is what I know. This is what I don't know. This is our timeline right now. And I tried to be as patient as I could with them. And I think that again, it works in our favor for some players. There's still some of those challenges, like the non-postseason thing still is a factor when we talk about things with recruits. So that was something we had to figure out, and how much did we talk about it? How much did we not talk about it? But we kind of, again, just stayed patient through the process, and we got through it.
Here with Liz Beville, the head coach of the women's lacrosse team for the Lemoyne Dolphins. Let's go into that first game. I was able to be on site for it against Cal. First and foremost, I love the fact that Cal came across the country. I know that they had a game, they got to play 2 games within a short time. So there was the opportunity for LeMoyne to be a part of seeing Cal on this coast as opposed to being on the West Coast. So when they come into town and, obviously they're representing still the Pac-12, to get a victory over them, to start the game the way that you started, to have the ability to get up in the game, to create that separation. And then when they tried to make a late surge to be able to lock in and defensively do what you needed to do and get out of there with a 9-6 victory at home. Just what you can say about, the return to Division One, getting a victory over a high caliber named, institution from the Pac-12.
Well, it was a great game. I give again all the credit to our players. I think that they wanted to get that win. It was, as you mentioned, like this return and the start, and I think to just kind of take that pressure off of getting the first one, like that. It was nice to do it at home. It was, a brisk day, but the sun was out a little bit, and I think it just was a great environment. And to play a team that we just, I've never seen before, and to be from that far away. Again, you talked about just them coming here. I mean, that was a great trip for them. They got stuck playing Cornell in a snow squall, so we're happy that wasn't against us. But I think it just all the little pieces of that day definitely came together for us, and I'm really proud of the way that the girls performed, and it was just a really good start. And again, just nice to have that first one, kind of get that weight off our shoulders and get that first win.
What did you see in that game when you go back and you look at the film and you break it down? I know that offensively you get to 9, more than half of those come from one of your student athletes. Just what you've taken away from once you had the time to kind of look at it and get a feel for where the team was at against Cal and what they showed in that first game, just what the things that stepped out to you the most from the film really ended up being.
Well, we definitely didn't play our best game, and still walked away with a win. So that was always nice to see, and nice to have. I think, we talked about Ronnie Shea had an all-star day, ended up being named player of the week. She just really put the team on her back this year, and her story, I know we've talked about in the past, is just a really awesome story of just 4 different high school coaches and different programs, and to see her be that successful on day one was awesome. Our goalies and defense obviously had a great day as well. So that's where our strength is right now, is in the defensive end. And then we're figuring things out little by little on attack, but it certainly helps when somebody can put in 5 of those 9 goals. So we have plenty to work on. Obviously had a little bit of a loss yesterday, but and things we need to work on. But that's why you play these early season games against some of the best teams, and it helps you figure out what you need to do moving forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ronnie, and I want take a look back at Ronnie Shea, Canastota, New York native, Bishop Grimes, just like we were talking about, scored 5 of the 9 goals in that victory over Cal. And Ronnie Shea's story, what is it about her and just the way she's handled adversity, the way that she's responded to different things that we may not know from what we see on the field, and you being her head coach, what about her story is so compelling to you?
I think for her, it's her ability to take feedback and then go put action to it. Again, we've talked about it. She was really recruited as an athlete. And I think every coach, that's what you want, is athletes. But when you say athlete, that is Ronnie Shea. I mean, she's just kind of good at everything she does. Whether it's we play basketball or it's some other competition, she's just the most competitive person on our team. But she doesn't like to fail, and she doesn't like to lose. And so she really takes it personally, and she puts action to whatever we ask of her. So I think that's really what we see behind the scenes, and the work that she's put in off the field, out of practice time, is definitely the most on the team, without a doubt. And we she knows that, and that's why she's in the position that she's in today, though, because she's put that extra work in.
And like you said, on the defensive side, a focus on that, and coming off of the loss that you just had here yesterday to start off the season with a 1-1 record, learning from that Cornell game as well, and focusing on the defense. What is it that you've seen in these first 2 games that has been a positive to you, maybe a pillar to build off of? And then secondly, what are some of those pieces that you're saying, hey, we got to get back to the drawing board, back to practice, and we have to really zero in on this?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second one of just things we need to work on. We're just kind of rebuilding that starting lineup and our flow of things. We had so many fifth years last year. We had some All-Americans on the field, so to lose them and then try to have new players in those positions, it takes some time to just get that chemistry and get the flow of the game. So that's the piece that we really need to continue working on and just kind of that trust in each other and knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I think yesterday was a good learning experience of what we need to fix or how we need to trust. We'll get there. But the positives, I think, are just the Paige and Cage. So our performance, she's had two 11 game saves,
Yeah.
11 save games so far. So that's a positive when your goalie's saving the yellow ball, we call it. So that's always a positive. I think our just relentlessness on some of these plays, and you saw Lily LaCastro, couple caused turnovers, 7 ground balls yesterday. Again, just had a standout game in terms of stats on defense, and we don't always see that from defenders. We don't always see those cause turnover stats or the ground ball stats. So I'm really excited about the way that we want to play. We just, again, need to get that chemistry and flow a little bit better, but definitely some positives from yesterday.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, they say you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. And sometimes, I mean, that can be true. Other times, I think you could take a lot away from a win. Your team's 1-1. What have we learned? What have you learned up to this point?
Yeah, I think we know who we can be. We saw glimpses of it over the last 2 games, and we know who we don't want to be, and we saw glimpses of that too. So I think there is a lot to learn from both games, and I'm excited about where we go from here. We've got 3 MAC opponents coming up, which is the conference that LeMoyne was an affiliate of way back when they were D1. So I think that these games will just mean a little bit more. And I think we're going to see some great challenges. I know Siena just had a huge win over Army. So there's really every game we have to be ready to compete. There's no like easy opponent, or we can't just waltz in and say, oh, we're going to win this. Like we have to compete, and we know what it takes to get the win at the end of the day. And we just have to make sure we're executing.
Putting together the non-conference schedule for you, what was the emphasis that you wanted to have as far as the competition that you play?
So a little bit of it was, I think, just who we could get on the schedule. Some of it had to do with trying to get some day trips and not having to do everything as overnights. I think that's the one benefit to us being Division 1 right now at the D2 level. Almost every single road game was an overnight trip, and so adding teams like Niagara, Canisius, Siena, Albany, who are all local and 2-3 hour bus ride. I think that's going to benefit our student athletes, just not missing as much class and being able to get a good night's sleep after a road, getting back from a road game. But at the same time, there's a lot of really good opponents around us. And so being able to play these teams. And again, I mentioned Siena just had a huge win over Army, and we're going to see UVM and Albany later in the season. And they're both been in the conference championship for the America East. So we wanted to make sure that we were challenging ourselves, and then also trying to play some teams where we thought we could get a win or hopefully could. And so I think it was a little bit of a combination of everything. I think to play a team like Cornell, even though we didn't get the win, they're local. They're an hour and a half away, if that. And so I think, and they're Ivy League, so I think that's kind of a fun opponent to have on your schedule and just be able to really compare. Their season and their program is completely different. The Ivies don't even start till February 1st. So it's just, I think all of these little things are just unique opportunities to really try to get new.
And when you look at that, and we kind of lost you there for a second. So you said get a new opponents on your schedule. What was the last thing you said?
Okay. Just continuing to compete every day. So making sure that every game we play, again, I think we want challenges this year. We're in this transition period. So having some challenges is going to help us.
Yeah, and you made mention of the fact of, obviously having these teams in the state of New York and being able to have those day trips, Cornell, Niagara, Siena, Canisius, like you spoke about later in the season, Albany, just what that does too to, invigorate. I don't even want to say invigorate a fan base because I've been to a lot of lacrosse games and you get fans and you have supporters and you have supporters when it's middle of the week and it's cold outside and you have supporters when it's 75 degrees and it's beautiful outside. So when the fans have definitely already shown up, but I guess having more of this New York connection and these New York Division One games can create another atmosphere to it, and it can create the fact that Central and Upstate New York people have gone to a lot of these schools, so maybe it can bring in some new fans to accentuate the positivities that you already have in the bleachers for you. Just what you take from that aspect of it, that New York versus New York, it seems to energize some people.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest piece of that is you have players who played in high school together that maybe are at LeMoyne and then they're at Niagara and then they're at LeMoyne and they're at Canisius. And so you still,
Yeah.
we're still Central New York. We're a big hotbed of lacrosse, and you still have a lot of players that want to stay close to home. And that's going to continue to happen for us. We have a bunch in our 24 class that are local and even in 25. So it's those rivalries that then happen, and then the parents all come or your high school teams come. And so, exactly to your point, there's definitely a fan base that will be created and continue to follow us in each of those games that we play as we play these new opponents and find different connections with just new people on the roster. And I think that's going to be awesome. And again, we shout out to our fan base because we do have such an awesome showing almost every game and great family support. But we have a lot of local support now, and I think as the weather turns nicer, we'll see some more people out there. But there's definitely people tuning in because of the name of the opponent that we're playing.
Yeah, and you talk about being a hotbed here with Liz Beville, women's lacrosse head coach for the LeMoyne Dolphins, in the return to Division One here on Wake Up Call in this edition of Dolphin Dive. The hotbed, when we look at your roster, everyone from the state of New York outside of Izzy from Jacksonville, Florida, and Emma from Frederick, Maryland. Just what you can say about the caliber of student athlete that is right here, 15 minutes away, an hour away, 2 hours away, 30 minutes away. When we're looking at the state of New York, and that's, I think, a huge benefit of the state of New York in the Northeast when it comes to the world of lacrosse, is that there is so much talent. I get to see it at the high school level, covering a bunch of these student athletes and seeing just how difficult it is just to get out of playing each other, playing sectionals and being just in this region. So just what you can say about your roster and the fact that, you do lean on, be it Division One, Division Two, or whatever, that you lean on the fact that this is a hotbed.
Well, I think there's just a sense of pride when you stay home. So I think we're always looking for those kids that want to stay home and they want to continue to support just the community that they grew up in. So I think that means a lot to them, and obviously it helps us when we get them at the heights. We talk about like our staff is a homegrown. We call it the homegrown staff. Myself going to JD. Riley Donahue and Adriana were West Jenny grads, and then Sarah Goodwin Beville grads. So we all stayed, local, and we're home to help continue to grow this program in Syracuse. So the rivalries again that kind of happen, like the Bevilles West Jennies or the FM West Jennies, those are fun when they get to campus and then they're on the same team. But because the high school programs around here are so competitive, that just elevates their level of play when they get to us and they want to continue that success that they had in high school. So I think that's what we really love about bringing in our people from our backyard and just making sure that we're continuing to represent the community and kind of just continue to compete with all of these people day in and day out.
Well, we've talked about the fan base, and I've been at these games, and I've seen the vibrant fan base that is just with them wherever they go, home and away. And so all that does is travel just, 15 minutes over here to LeMoyne or whatever it may be. And I think that in and of itself is huge because the families are at every game. Brother and sister are there, mom and dad are there, aunt and uncle, grandma and grandpa, and that just trickles right over to LeMoyne, which I think is great for everybody involved because they get to see their kids and their grandkids and their siblings and whatnot, and then you get to continue to play off of the fact that they've already had such a vibrant fan base, which adds to everything you're doing at LeMoyne.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're just really lucky that the parents, are so supportive. And I think when it's that sense of kind of just sense of comfort for student athletes that, take yesterday, for example, it's a tough loss, but they're able to go, get a hug from mom or dad in the parking lot. And I think that just helps. It goes a long way at the end of the day to have so many supportive family members. And even for our players that are not from around here, they've kind of been like adopted by other family members. And so they're well taken care of and well supported. And, that just helps our success down the road.
And I mean, to kind of take a step away from this season for a second and to look at the history, I know that, we talked about last year celebrating 3 decades of women's lacrosse on the Heights. And right after we celebrate 3 decades of the program, it's into Division One. And we look back on that history and 12 years of that 30 years, 1999 to 2010, at the Division One level, a record of 117 and 84. So a winning record, success that had already come there. Do you look, I know within the season you're scouting and you and your staff are going game to game, and I understand that. I know a lot of people say it's coach speak, but it's reality. If you want to win, you have to go to each game that's in front of you. But going into this season, do you look at the history of 12 years? We've had success. We have over 100 wins. We have a place in Division One in our life, and in almost half of the time that we've been a program at LeMoyne, we were Division One. So does that hold any weight? Is it any conversation that you have with your student athletes, or does that all stay in the background?
So we definitely want to recognize, the hard work that our alumni put into those years and their success. And again, they were very successful. I want to make sure I say that because the game has just changed so much. The rules have changed. It's really a different game from 10 years ago that it even was from 2 years ago. And so I think that's the challenge there is while we had so much success at the D1 level, during that time span you talked about, the game has just grown and developed. And so we're really talking about a different game right now. But I think that again, right, you don't win with just X's and O's. You win with the people, you win with the relationships you build, you win with the work ethic you have. And so I think that's what we would lean on, if anything, right? You're not successful if you don't have good team chemistry and you don't have values and things that you want to accomplish as a team. So we kind of would look at those parts of the program and its previous stint in D1, but kind of looking at just like the games and the records, that's not totally telling to right now, just because the game has developed so much. And we're really, even this year, there were new rules put in. Like, it's really a brand new game that we're talking about right now.
And for those that don't know of the transition and how things are going, what rules are changing, what things are changing, what have you had
Sure.
to ad lib to?
Yeah, so just to touch on a few, and this happened last year, or 2 years ago, we went to quarters. We've got a shot clock that we use now. There's some new rules. If you saw now with green cards in the midfield, just
Yeah.
trying to decrease kind of some of the physicality and injuries that have been happening over the last few years. So there's just a lot of different pieces to the game and how it's played. And again, just the formatting with even the shot clock in the quarters is completely different than what used to be done. And, we're not freezing on every whistle anymore. So that's great. But there just is, women's lacrosse is an evolving game, and we're trying to make it, more fan friendly and trying to make it understandable to everybody that's watching that might be a new fan. And I know that's a little bit of a challenge this year, but I think that those are some of those differences where even, our alums on alumni, the alumni game, they're like, I don't know what's happening because, we're calling one thing or the refs are saying something. They're like, what is that rule? So, it's an exciting thing though to really reflect on because the game has just changed so much. And it's in a much better place now than when we started playing it.
What do you like, not like about quarters, shot clock, green cards? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like a lot of these new rules. They make the game fast. They make it fun. I grew up, we've talked about this. I grew up watching men's lacrosse my whole life. So there's a lot more that carries over between both games now. So the
Yeah.
quarters, the shot clocks, those are both in both games. This year we added the power plays. We're calling, man up opportunities are now power plays. And if you retain possession as the clock runs out, you get to start the quarter with the ball. So I think that's going to be a positive change. So I like it. I think that's just because the style that I was taught in college and what we played at Portland was just a fast, high pace game. And so I think these rules really allow that, and they kind of cater to that. The green cards, we're still feeling out a little bit. I like some of them. I don't like them when we get them. I like it when the other team gets them. So we're still feeling those ones out a little bit, but I do think it's going to help. I think people had some negative thoughts on how it was going to impact our game. We've seen both of our games really finish in about 2 hours. I know some other D1s have been taking a lot longer, but I've been pleased with how the game's been called so far. So I think the rules cater to what I personally like, and how I like to play the game of lacrosse.
Yeah, and I think if I go back years ago with Time Warner Sports, I was doing stats for men's and women's lacrosse, and I had to learn like different
Yeah.
games. It was strange to think like, because basketball is basketball. So when you're sitting there with lacrosse and they're going, well, you have to do this for the women, but you have to do this for the men, and you have to pay attention to that, but then there's this. And you really had to sit there and say, like, if you don't know the game and you don't know the intricacies of it, they were very different. So
Mhm.
to give them some similarities can hopefully bridge the gap and get some men's lacrosse fans to filter over and then women's over to men's and back and forth because they're seeing a similar game, which I'm hoping will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly what the goal is just to make it a little bit more common. And, we won't go into it, but the Olympic sixes discipline that comes out, those are really the same rules for the most part. So lacrosse is just it's evolving and it's going in the right direction. And, I'm excited to see in a few years where we're at with this and what rules we have in a couple years too.
We have a couple questions here looking at scheduling. Are the Dolphins looking at going to the West Coast next season? A question that's coming from me is that team that's right down the road. Is their thoughts of playing Syracuse?
Yeah, so West Coast, maybe not next season. Our conference, as you know, is just having some changeover right now. And so with our conference schedule, I think it's going to be tricky to get out to the West. I would love to maybe make a trip in the future. So maybe South next year. That's kind of what we're thinking right now. We definitely would love to start getting some travel games in where it is a fun trip like a Cal or Oregon or just again even down south of our men's team I think is playing Mercer, so just go to a little bit warmer weather in February I think would be fun. And then as far as Syracuse right now, I haven't spoken to Kayla. I think maybe a scrimmage could be, but they're just playing at such a high level right now. We've got some work to do, I think, before we're really ready to compete against them. And I think that ACC is the best conference in Division I women's lacrosse. So a little intimidating to think about playing them at the moment, especially coming off a loss yesterday. If you asked me this last Thursday, I might have said, yeah, let's do it. So, it could be something in the future, but I think for right now, we want to stay with some games where we really feel like we can compete and walk away with a win.
Yeah, and I think like you said, building that, foundation, building the morale, building that connection that you have and that positivity as you step in to the
Yeah.
NEC, which is interesting because anybody who doesn't know, the Northeast Conference is, and I've, paid attention to conferences all over the country. There's 30 plus conferences depending on what sport you're talking about and whatnot. So when we look at these conferences, the NEC is probably, in my opinion, the one that has the most associate members, those non full time members, but a member for a sport or two or three or five. And in the case of women's lacrosse in the NEC, Delaware State, who's not a full time member, Howard, who's not a full time member, those are teams you're going to be playing. And in the future, there's going to be, obviously some transition like you were talking about with Merrimack and Sacred Heart deciding to leave the conference. So just what you can say about what that looks like, what the NEC looks like for women's lacrosse and what it is today. I know is going to change tomorrow, but just for what we have going into this season with the Delaware States and the Howards that are atypical to the NEC, but inside of the NEC when it comes to women's lacrosse.
Yeah. So I think the conference has, we talked Merrimack was a former D2 program, Stonehill's in the conference, former D2, and now us, former D2. So there are a lot of schools that have transitioned from Division 2 to Division 1 that are now in the NEC, and then we have some of those affiliates. As the game continues to grow, that could change just based on locations and where new programs pop up. But next year we'll be losing 2 conference members, and we might see that maybe more D2s are going to transition to D1, and those will fill those spots. So we're really not 100% sure what it'll look like next year. But in terms of the conference, it is very similar to our NA10 conference. We feel like there's, again, some of those opponents that we've seen previously that we'll now see again in a new division, new conference. And then just all around kind of level of play and similarities to some of the schools we saw in the NE10. We're excited for this conference. We really feel like we can compete right away.
Yeah, and when we look at these next few games for you, you will not leave the state of New York, even though you have 3 road games coming up. You're going to Niagara, to Siena and Loudenville, and then to Canisius and Buffalo. Then you're back home for your first NEC game ever, and that's going to be at Ted Grant Field on March 9th on a Saturday at noon against Sacred Heart. So just, to know that for these next couple weeks here, you're not leaving the state of New York, maybe what that does for your team.
Again, I mentioned it earlier. I think just knowing that we're not waking up at 6 a.m. to get on a bus and we're not getting back after midnight. I mean, it'll be kind of a 12-hour day, but that's like a breeze compared to what we've done in the past. And so I'm really excited about that. And the fun thing that's going to happen is just, I can name already with all 3 schools, we have relationships, or we've got some friends that play against have played against each other growing up, or they're friends from high school and they're going to be able to compete against each other. One of my best friends from high school is the assistant at Siena. So, we've got our own little rivalry going on with that one. So they're just, I think, more than anything, it's going to be a fun opportunity to compete against these schools that aren't too far away. There's schools that we compete against with recruiting as well. So just to kind of see how we do with that, and that'll help us, whatever the outcome is, hopefully will help us in those conversations moving forward. And so I'm just really excited. Again, I think road trips are always fun and overnights are always fun, but to not have these, staying in hotels and sleeping on different beds and getting home late, I just really think that our student athlete experience is going to be enhanced by playing so many teams in our state and not having to be on the road as much.
Yeah, and before we jump into a little bit of rapid fire, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat and let myself go on the hot seat too. But I want to get to something that I thought was really cool that happened here recently, and that was that for the 75th anniversary for men's basketball, you and your team were throwing out the tees for threes, and not just throwing them out, but putting them into lacrosse sticks and flinging them into the stands. just what you can say about, connecting in that way, having some fun. The fact that when you go to a game, there are other teams that go to support each other, and I've seen this for the better part of 3 years now, is that whatever game I'm going to, I'm seeing another team in the stands, and your women's lacrosse team had some fun at the men's basketball game.
Yeah, I don't know how long the sticks lasted. They said they were almost taking people out, so
Yeah.
they might have gone to their arms after, I think, second half. But I think we were just the only team on campus that day. We wanted to make sure that we showed some support. We had watched the Cornell game earlier in the day, and so I think all of those opportunities are little team bonding chances and ways for us to, as a team, get together and then to support our other student athletes. I know some of the guys had come out earlier in the day to support us, on Thursday. And then I know, so last Thursday was a doubleheader. We played at 1 o'clock and the guys played at 7. So I know that the guys had come out for a little bit before practice, and then our girls after the game, even some of them went to the game. So, we definitely try. I think that's LeMoyne to a T, is we really try to support each other whenever we can. And, to be able to throw the tees was definitely just a little fun experience for us. The girls had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, and like I said, and to your point, I saw the sticks come out and then I saw them go away. So
Yep. They were like, oh, maybe it was a little too strong on there. I'm like, all right, let's use your hands then. We'll do okay with that.
So let's jump into rapid fire. It could be
Okay.
about literally anything. It doesn't have to be sports. Could be anything in the world. Here with Liz Beville, women's lacrosse head coach for the LeMoyne Dolphins in their return to Division one of the two teams on the Heights that had history at the Division One level. So Liz, I will defer to you. You get to ask the first question.
Ooh, okay. Twin Trees or Mario and Salvos?
Oh man, I guess I would. I guess I would say Mario and Salvos.
Okay.
I think that pizza tastes better when it's a triangle, and this is coming from a card-carrying Italian. I don't know why. I feel like it's better when it's a triangle than a square. And I like the thin. I just like having
Okay.
thin pizza. So I guess I would say Mario and Salvos.
Okay. Good. A good choice. That's probably what I would pick too. I like both, but Mario's is my go-to since high school, so
Okay.
that's the one I pick.
Yeah, because it's right by JD.
Yeah,
So
right by it, and now I work right by it, so I'm like, oh, this is a problem.
Well, I'm going to throw this at you. So since I have, and today's Wednesday, so it's actually buy one, get one for the DT Dolphin, I created an ice cream at Carvel DeWitt, which is right by Mario and Salvo's in that same development that features the LeMoyne Dolphins and actually has a chocolate dolphin in it. So my question to you is, if you were to go to Carvel, what
Mhm.
is your go-to, because you got to try the dolphin, but beyond that, what is your go-to, like, this is my thing if I'm going to treat myself?
So Carvel, I don't even know the name of it because I think they've switched the name of the ice cream, but it's like a chocolate vanilla mix, and then it's got the crunchies in it, like the chocolate crunchies.
Yeah.
It used to be like a monster mash or something. I don't know what it is, but that's if I'm going to Carvel, I don't think I've had anything else but that. That's what I get there.
Yeah, it's like it's a mini version of like their cake, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly. Like their ice cream cake in a ice cream version. So yeah, that's exactly what it is.
fair enough. Ice cream cake for breakfast, there's nothing wrong with it. What's your next
Yeah.
question for me, Liz?
Hmm. Let's see. Are you we do a lot of would you rathers at camps and all of that. So beach or lake? Which one?
Man, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because I just like water. So I
Okay.
would say, and I am the person that could like swim all day. So I guess I would say beach or lake. Hmm. I spent time with both. I guess I would say beach because
Okay.
I love St. Pete's Beach down in the Tampa area in Florida. And there's something to like at 10 o'clock at night that the only thing out there is the moon and it would light up the beach and you could just take a walk and no cell phone and just kind of like be by yourself or like walk with a friend. But there's something to the peace and just the tranquility. And you can literally just hear the waves and you don't hear anything else. It's very peaceful. So I'd say St. Pete Beach specifically.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, let me see. Would you rather? I don't usually do these, but let me throw one here. Would you rather? All right, I'm going to give you a tough one. Would you rather swim with sharks or skydive?
Oh, that is hard because I am not a big fan of heights. So skydiving makes me very nervous. I guess if we're talking swimming with sharks, we're talking like you're in a cage type
Yeah.
of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what I would go to. Honestly, I love the water as well. So being there and at least like knowing I'm in a cage maybe is a little less fearful than skydiving, jumping out of a plane. That just is like that gives me, I'm like having heart racing palpitations already. So I'll go with the sharks.
If you weren't in a cage and you were just with the sharks, would that change your answer?
I'd be neat. I'd be like on the beach. I'm like neither. I'm like the hard no on both of those. So,
Fair enough. What's your last one for me?
let's see. What do I got? Um, I'm trying to think of like a LeMoyne question. Oh, okay. We just did that. This will be coming out soon, hopefully. Your best scar story. Like, if you have a scar, what's your best?
My best scar story. Oh, probably. I don't even know if you can like see because I shaved my head so low, but there was right here as a kid. My mom told me this because I was a baby, but I had started to crawl, and my mom is known for she's always helping people and she's always on the phone. So my mom, I shouldn't say she's always on the phone, but she'll get calls throughout the day. So this was back in the day of no cell phones, so she was on a corded phone, and I
Mm,
was crawling on the top of the bed in my parents' room, and my mom was on the phone, I think, with her friend Marianne, and I went off the bed, and she went to catch me, but I had already hit the floor, hit my
oh
head, and I was little, cracked my head open, and my mom was still holding on to the phone and holding on to me,
my
and
God.
and I had a crack that went here. My mom said she picked me up, she flinged me up, and there was just blood,
Yeah.
and my I had a scar that came down. She said it looked like a caterpillar. It came like down my forehead and then it went up, and then as I got older, it kind of just went away, and then it stuck right here. But every time I get a haircut, people would say to me, they're like, man, I love that haircut. How do you always get them to do that little thing right there? And I was like, oh, it's really easy. You just got to go back in time in a DeLorean. You
Yeah.
got to crack your head open as a baby, and then it just makes itself. So I guess that's my scar because people always thought it looked really cool in my hair. They thought I did it on purpose. So
That's funny.
I would say that one. All
Fun.
right. Hmm. Okay. Well, you have a connection to LeMoyne. You also have a connection to Cortland because of your dad. So, favorite Cortland memory, and then secondly, did you watch the national championship game?
Yes, I watched the national championship game. I was so nervous. And shout out to Cortland men's basketball, Sports Center top three this morning for their last second shot in overtime. It was absolutely crazy. So you got to go watch that if you haven't yet. Favorite Cortland memory. I mean, there are, I mean, so many I could say right now. I'll pick something lacrosse related though, and this one definitely sticks out is we played Salisbury my senior year, I believe it was, at home Easter weekend, and they were ranked number two. Maybe it wasn't Easter weekend. I can't. There's so many days, but they were ranked one, we were ranked two, and we had played them at home and we beat them. And this was when there was like no shot clock. And so I just remember we stalled the ball for like 6 minutes at it. I mean, it was crazy what we did in this game to win it. But that was a massive, massive win for us. And I just remember kind of like the feelings after and the tailgate after. And I do think it was Easter because I think everybody went home for dinner, but then like came back so we could go celebrate it. So that was probably one of the best like lacrosse memories I've had at Cortland.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I know obviously that connection is important to you, and I got to sit down with Kurt Fitzpatrick after
Yeah,
the championship and speak with him and I got to hold the trophy. And
awesome.
I think anybody who gets to hold a championship trophy, you don't understand like how real it is until it's like in your and that thing is heavy. So
Yeah, no, it is. I held the 2015, the women won in 2015, and I was at that game, and I remember I was like crying holding it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And my teams had gotten so close, but then to watch some of my former teammates win that, the year after was just really special. It's a really cool opportunity, and it's such an awesome experience for them.
yeah, a lot of great stuff, a lot of positivity, and a lot of good things moving forward as we will have the women's lacrosse team for LeMoyne in the state of New York for their next 4 games coming up here, including at home on Saturday, March 9th. We look forward to seeing you there as well as on the road. Liz, as always, thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to go behind the scenes of a program that I respect so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
All right, take care. And if you bring those sticks out again, just teach him to toss it up and not at.
Yeah, we'll go a little underhand next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. That coming here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Here this morning in hour number 1 and getting to spend an hour, really, for the most part here, just talking about women's lacrosse. I mean, that's the difference. That's what you get here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and having the opportunity to speak about a little bit of everything. We've had lacrosse, we've had crew, we've had soccer, basketball, football, softball, baseball, field hockey. I'm trying to think, swimming and diving, volleyball, and on and on and on and on and on. And it's just great. It's great to tell these stories, and I know Liz is so passionate about LeMoyne, and she's passionate about coaching, and she's passionate about the sport as a whole, and obviously her family's connection to Cortland as well. That's not too far away, right down 81. So, it's fun to be able to tell these stories this morning and to talk about a bunch of different pieces with Liz and to talk about this LeMoyne program for women's lacrosse that has the unique experience with the baseball team of returning to Division One when every other sport at LeMoyne is going into Division One for the first time ever. So there's a lot of newness, and then there's a sense of this return, right, for women's lacrosse and for baseball at LeMoyne. So I appreciate Liz giving us a background of so many things going on. Like I said, a behind-the-scenes tour, essentially, of the roster, of the schedule, of the preparation, of the 2 games so far, of getting a win in the return to Division One in their first opportunity, being against Cal, who came from the West Coast, and getting to see how this team can play against teams that they've never seen before, and a team from the Pac-12. So just that notable victory as well, and everything else that's come with it. So really an awesome opportunity to tell the story of a program that I appreciate and like going out to see. And I was there. It was like 26 degrees outside when LeMoyne faced off against Cal. And I'm really happy for the young women on the team and the entire coaching staff led by Liz Beville. So congratulations to each and every single one of you on your success already. And God willing, plenty more success coming up this season. And speaking of coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, coming up after this fast break, you will have the opportunity to see Roosevelt Bouie Jr. picture-in-picture with me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we continue inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin', as Rosie and I will talk about Syracuse Basketball. They had a phenomenal start yesterday night to their game. Then, in a game that didn't see a ton of defense, it got close, it got tied. Syracuse lost the lead for a hot few seconds, but they were able to pull out a victory and a quad one victory. Quad one is a way to, there's a bunch of rules to quad one, and I can get into all this stuff with you, because if you think it's confusing, that's because it is. And so a quad one win last night, because away quad one is teams that are 1 through 75 in the ranking, in the NET rankings. So, and NC State was number 75. So they do count as a quad one, right there on the line, but they count as a quad one victory. So Syracuse now 3-7 in quad one games. They played 10 of those games. They're really, really good against quad three, quad four, and they got a good record against quad two as well. So now trying to get some of these quad ones, they got 2 of them late. And a lot of times the NCAA selection committee has typically gone by, what have you done for me lately? And what Syracuse has done lately is they defeated North Carolina quad one, lost to Georgia Tech, and then defeated quad one NC State. And they had the North Carolina one at home, the NC State one on the road. They both count as quad one victories, and they both come late in the season, which is good for the Syracuse Orange. So Greg says, nonetheless, it was a much-needed quality win. Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to talk about all of that after the break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're taking a fast break, and then Roosevelt Bouie Jr. will be joining me picture-in-picture live on the show right here on Wake Up Call, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You're with us on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So however you've connected with the show, thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We will be back right after this fast break, after you hear from our awesome partners in Central and Upstate New York. Rosie and I will be with you picture-in-picture to talk about the state of Syracuse Orange men's basketball.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942. And tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge, and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item, available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Always happy to be here with you, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I'm honored and privileged, as always, to be welcoming my next guest, picture-in-picture with me, coming in here to the broadcast, and that is my guy, Roosevelt Bouie Jr., joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, with an awesome, awesome background, Mr. Roosevelt Bouie Jr. How are you?
Doing great, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. And Rosie, I mean, to look at this season, to just kind of hop head first right into it, this has been an interesting campaign of moments of potential greatness, moments of strife, ups and downs, ebb and flow, adversity. But when a team is learning and they are growing pains happen. So how have you assessed this season as somebody who's played at Syracuse, as someone who, you know, obviously analyzes and does your own show and your own pieces and whatnot? You watch this team with a fine-tooth comb and pay attention to it very, very specifically to different pieces. So what have you seen this season?
Well, the first thing that I did when Coach Boeheim retired, I went in and I talked to Adrian and told him that he's got as an alumni, has my support, and we will basically support him in everything that he does. And then I just sat back and I said, it's going to be a ride. He said, you know what, now it's becoming real. This is before the season started. And to get all the moving pieces in place, talent-wise, you have players that you can put on the floor. And at a certain point, they have to buy into what the coach is selling.
Yeah.
And secondly, you've got to get them to do. It's one thing to say, I want you to rebound. If you just yell out, go to the rebound, it's an oxymoron. You run toward the rebound. Actually, what you do is you make space going backwards, make contact, and then go to the rebound. So it's what a player has in his mind and what the coach has in his mind. It takes a while for them, the two, to come together. And when you have a young team that's been playing together for the first times, it takes a while to get to know one another. And they're going to have growing pains, but the one thing that I always said is it's going to be exciting.
Well, and like you said, I mean, it's the growing pains of he's been on the staff, right? But he's still a different voice now. He's not, and Mike Hopkins said this to me a long time ago. He said, Jim Boeheim's a dad, I'm the big brother. When dad yells at you, I'm the one that's there to talk with you afterward. Adrian being an assistant coach maybe is different than Mike, but Jim was still the dad, and now Adrian is transitioning to that father role, to the leader role, to the guy that's going to be driving this bus. What can you say about that role change of being an assistant to a head coach and how you kind of look through the lens of that they know his voice and they know him, but they don't know him as their head coach until this season?
Yes, it's one thing to, he ran practice. He's been running practices for years. And they understand his voice, they understand what he wants to have done. But as moving into that next position, you become the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Basically, you ask something to be done, and it needs to get done. You need to establish that fact that, okay, I'm here to give you the plays that we want you to do to teach what I want to have done. And to do that, you gotta, sometimes there's growing pains to get everyone to respond appropriappropriately. Like you said before, the big brother, it's one thing when your big brother tells you something to do, you might, hey, I'll get to it. But when coach tells you to do it, you gotta go like, okay, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. How do you think he's done as the head coach so far?
Hey, listen, I was the general manager of a team once, semi-pro team in Buffalo, and it was like being a glorified babysitter. It's like you got 12, 13 kids that want to go, players that want to go do something that benefits them. And now the one thing that we never had that problem is because we had a player, Dale Shackelford, that let everybody know ahead of time, listen, nothing is greater than the team. We all like to win. You have to establish that identification as a team, and then have that coach point you in the right direction. Adrian he's done the best that he could when starting out, getting everybody on the same page, and slowly but surely you can. It's very easy to tell when you can get them to buy into what he's teaching, because the outcome shows it. Sometimes, like my favorite saying goes, best thing about men is testosterone. The worst thing about men is testosterone. You got to get them. It's what I found out when teaching ladies, you can show them something that they can benefit from. You show them one time, they start doing it. Well, with guys, you show them something, then they think there might be a better way that they do it their way, and then they'll keep trying their way, and then after a while they go like, hey, wait a minute, let me try coach's way. And I think it was eye-opening when they beat North Carolina, because they're like, hey, wait a minute, we can play. We listen to coach, we do what coach says. Good things happen. So those eye-opening events happen, and then the team is changed afterwards. If you're a little young, you got to say, well, let me see if we can try my way again. And then when that doesn't work, then you're quicker to abide by what the coach says. So I think he's done a very good job along with his staff. I know those guys put in endless hours, and it's good to see them getting some light shown on the program and what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Rosie, there has been these moments, right? It was taking care of the dome, consistently having victories there. It was, getting these wins against the teams that the nation is looking at, like in North Carolina, avenging a loss that you had on the road. We've heard strength of schedule, SOS. We've heard RPI. Now we hear NET rankings. We hear quad 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do you make any sense of this when people start talking to you about, I mean, you're looking at game by game, and then, there will always be the conversation that can arguably come up of someone coming up to you or me and saying, Dan, Rosie, what do you think about the quads? Do they have enough quads? They have a quad 1, they have a quad 2. What do you think about this quad or that one? Or do you think they can get enough quad? I hear about this quad stuff all throughout the season, and if people think it's confusing, it's because it is. I have to keep that index to me of like, okay, what's a quad 1 at home? What's a quad 1 on the road? Because they're not the same. Their quad 1 is this to this at home, like this ranking to this ranking if it's at home, this ranking to this ranking if it's on the road, this ranking to this ranking if it's neutral, and then the ranking, you have to look at every single team. I mean, this is a math project. Do you pay any attention to it, or what are your thoughts on the NET rankings that have now given us the quads?
So basically, in a nutshell, I look at it as a player. I could care less.
Yeah.
I could absolutely care less. It's a distraction.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to. That's stuff for everybody else. That's stuff for everybody else to talk about when you're discussing the team. As the player, it's a distraction. I mean, as an ex-player, it's a distraction. So, looking at it from what the players have to do now, could care less. Absolutely care less about it, because you've got to focus on what defense you're supposed to run, what offense you're supposed to run, how quickly, who you're supposed to pick up, who you're supposed to favor, rebounding. What coach is talking about right now, there's not enough time in the day for them to worry about that nonsense.
No, and I mean, and I figured, knowing you for as many years as I have, that that's the answer that you were going to provide was, I could care less about this stuff, and so I'm not surprised at all. People ask me about this, and I have to go and I have to look. I mean, I have to literally sit down and I have to look stuff up, and I have to sit with the ranker and see to myself, okay, so this is this and this is that. And then go through the whole thing and what does it mean? And, I told people I would describe it, here on today's show, but it is a very confusing, it's not a simple, just to say it so that people know. A quad 1 win is a home game against an opponent that's NET ranked 1 through 30, neutral versus an opponent that's 1 through 50, away versus an opponent that's 1 to 75. So that's why the win yesterday for Syracuse counts as a quad 1, because NC State is ranked 75th in the NET. It's an away game. It's a victory, so it becomes a quad 1 win. I mean, we've called it a bunch of different things. I feel like, Rosie, to your point of who cares, I'm not paying attention to it. The criteria of getting into the NCAA tournament is always changing. Like I said before, it was SOS, it was RPI, now it's NET and quad wins. But the reality of it all is there's times where they've said that somebody had not a good enough selection of wins, but they had some really good quality losses. And I can't for the life of me figure out what a quality loss is. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
So the way that the one thing that I'm sure of is pretty much the NCAA puts in there who they want to put into play.
Amen.
So your job as a team is to go out there and win the games that you can and play as hard. See, you got to break it down into its simplest form. Its simplest form is you go out there and you play as hard as you can every single night, and good things will happen. You just got to go out there and show that you're a competitive team, because every single year in the NCAA, there's people that say, like, how the heck did they get in and they not get in? They put in who they want to. So they I think it's for me, it's like smoke and mirrors. They put all these things out here to confuse everybody. So at the end, everybody's totally confused, and they just sit back in the room and they go like, I like them. They're good. You know, of course, you got your top teams that you're going to put in there, but everybody else that falls into the kettle that's going to be going into NCAA, they're like, okay, I think they'll be good for this area. Who knows what they use to pick the teams? You got to play as hard as you can, get some good wins, keep your coach happy, and good things will happen to you.
Roosevelt Bouie Jr. here, Syracuse Basketball alum on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning. Rosie, what do you like about this year's team up to this point? What have you seen that you can pick out and say, these are really good pillars to build something on?
I think that one of the things that I noticed is when they're playing defense, they're tough. They can steal passes, get a hand on passes from every position. You have players that are willing to step up, not only to take the big shot, but you got players that are willing to step up to block shots to win a game, to make big shots to win a game, just to step up and help their teammates get over the hump to get a win. Those are warriors. You can take those guys, put them shoulder to shoulder, and you go out there to play the game, and it's like, oh, it's going to be exciting, and you know you're never going to have guys that come out there and give half an effort. It's important to go out there and give everything you got, and keep believing that you can win the game, because at a certain point, somebody's going to lose that game, especially when you're so exciting. The teams are so exciting, and they're playing like neck and neck. The team that believes in themselves the longest, that knows that they're not going to give up, is going to come out on top. Now, even if they don't win the game that night, the next team that plays against them knows, okay, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I referenced the team when Syracuse won the national championship. There were days that they went out and they'd be down 17 points, and they'd come back and win. There's games that they'd be up, and then the other team would come back. There's games where they would play terrible and they would win. The key factor that they let everybody know in the country was, no matter what happens on this court, you're in a dogfight. It's going to go right into the end. Yeah. And there's something about, you can't, any team playing against them can't get comfortable, because they know at any given moment they're going to come at them. And that's what I like to see in this Syracuse team.
Well, and that's the thing this year, is that, I mean, there's been moments where it's gotten a little bit confusing, right? They're going to play a certain way, and they'll play really well, and then they'll falter. But there's been the element of what you've been talking about. The element of Syracuse in a lot of games this season was never really out. Last night we saw them up by as many as 15. They almost lost the game, but they found a way to come back. They made it interesting down the wire. We've seen the game against Louisville where they made it interesting all the way down the wire. So we've seen these moments of that. Do you get a sense for that in the 2023-24 squad, that this is a team capable of being that team that, win or lose, is going to make it interesting, and is, in a bunch of cases, I mean, I know there's been some blowouts this year, but in other cases, they do kind of feel like that team that's not really out of something.
Oh, absolutely. See, the strange thing is they're learning about themselves. All you have to do, keep in mind, when you get your foot in the door to the postseason, once you're into the postseason, all the crap that happened during the season does not matter. What you've done before that point does not matter. You're walking out, you got a brand new suit on, and you got a new chance. Everybody starts out 0-0. Yeah. And it goes from there, especially in the tournament, single elimination. So That's what's so scary about the tournament. There are any number of teams playing on any given night that can beat each other.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to be growing in the way that you play towards the end of the season. Show everybody that you're a good that you would make a good game. And the one thing for sure, the Syracuse guys they make it exciting. They make it exciting. They come out with a lot of flair. They're playing hard now. They're playing consistent. They've understood things that, I mean, to give you an idea, I played in the game. We played against Mike D'Antoni's team, and we played against them at home, and we beat them by 45 points.
Yeah.
They're probably the second or third ranked team in the country in Italy at that time. We beat them by 45 at our place. We beat them into submission. And later that year, we lost in the finals by 1.2, Mike D'Antoni's team. So there is, any team can have a flat. You know, they had the best. They had the best Italian. They had the 5-6 best Italian players in the country. Then they had Mike D'Antoni at the time and John Gianelli that played for the Knicks. So they had good Americans.
Yeah.
And we just with a young kid myself, I was 22, 23 years old, just running around out there like a crazy man. Just didn't want to stop. And we beat them by 45 points. They were a much more mature team. And in the back of my mind, I said, the buck doesn't stop here. You got to be ready for them. And sure enough, they came back. So even though this Syracuse team took a beat down in North Carolina, they came back and they said, there's one thing that happens when you get beat like that. One thing that you always want to do, instead of running right into the locker room, I would always want to sit there and just watch everybody enjoying themselves and put that in the back of my mind and use that as fuel, saying, okay, I don't care. I will leave every breath in my body out here so just to ruin their day the next time we play. So these guys they've got a lot of competitiveness in them, and I really enjoy that. And get your foot in the door, sometimes you'll be surprised what can happen.
Yeah, you speak about the flair of this team. Chris Bell, now twice this season, just this season, his sophomore season in college, he has 2 games where he's gone 8 for 10 from beyond the arc. 8 for 10 for three-point range in a 92-90 home win against Louisville on February 7th, 2024. And last night, 8 for 10 again in an 87-83 road win at NC State on February 20th, 2024. He started last night's game 8 for 8 from 3. And these were not just set up and wide open and pop. These were some off balance. These were some with a leg kicked out. These were some with him standing there and be able to go straight up and look at it. These were open looks. These were looks he had to create. We saw him not only go 8 for 8 to start the game and 8 for 10 in general against NC State on the road in a victory, but we saw him do it in so many different ways of taking the shot. He's now 80% from 3 in an 8 for 10 situation twice this season. What are your thoughts on Chris Bell and who he is to this team?
You know, my thoughts on Chris Bell is if he can shoot 80% from the field, he should be getting like 30 shots. Well, I mean, that's just me. But the thing that I enjoy about it is the fact that he's going to get better. He's going to get more confident. They're going to start running plays through him, and it's going to be a beautiful thing to watch. The next step is, can he be that player that can put the yoke on his shoulder and carry the team on a consistent basis?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and that, I mean, and this is the thing, we saw a game before against Georgia Tech on the sideline that he was getting upset, and it looked like him and JJ were having a back and forth. Q was in between that. So what can you say to that point of it, being a former player, seeing a player on a team, in this case Chris Bell, upset, arguing with his teammates in a loss, and then just a couple days later starting the game 8 for 8 from 3 from the field? Just what that shows you about Chris to have this negative emotion. And he's talked to me about it this season. He said, I don't want to be an energy consumer. I want to give energy to my team. I don't want to be an energy consumer. Against Georgia Tech, he's visibly frustrated, having an argument with his teammate. Couple days later, he's facing off against NC State, and the guy's locked in and he's lights out. What can you say to the juxtaposition and how he went from stress and anxiety and upset to the best shooter on the team 3 days later?
Well, just so you know, it's nothing new to have players that go at it. It's just that we have a lot more cameras now watching everything.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
There used to be stomp down, drag out, pileups in practice, not because of being, well, who knows what it's because of, but it can be a loose ball on the floor. It can be tough practice because somebody stepped on your toe. You're not gonna get along all the time.
Yeah.
One thing that you have to take into consideration is that they have one goal. They want to play the best that they can, and they want to be there for their teammates. A lot of times you can be disappointed because you didn't bring what you thought you could bring to a game, and be upset at yourself. It can be mistaken by somebody else as being upset at another player. There's no one that wants to play better. There's no saying nobody wants me to play better than myself.
Yeah.
So no matter what somebody else says, it can't hold a candle to the way that players would hold themselves. Expect perfection out of their game.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's nothing new in the sense of now everything it's on social media. There's so many cameras to it, because in the case in the Georgia Tech game, they were talking about Georgia Tech with the camera on Syracuse at that time, showing what was going on the side, and yet, we see Chris Bell bounce back. But I always go back, speaking of bounce back, I go back to that with him all season long, because it stuck with me when he said, I don't want to be an energy consumer. He's like, sometimes I go out there and I'm consuming, he's taking away from the team. He wants to give too. What does it mean to you that a sophomore on this team is, young in his career in college, on and off the court, that he's having those conversations with me where he's really trying to understand the energy he provides for his team?
That's great, but I can't. That's so. I speak from my personal position. I wouldn't have you'd have never had that conversation with me, because I don't have time to discuss what the team's doing outside of the team. I have to focus everything that I have inside of that team. Not saying that it didn't happen. I'm saying that you wouldn't have known about it, because all of my focus would have been towards getting my team to do what it's supposed to do. So that situation would have never created itself with me, because I didn't have time for anybody that wasn't in that locker room. We could stop. I mean, as far as talking about playing and energy consumption, I needed my teammates to understand that whatever they needed from me, they were going to get. And if you didn't get it that night, I was going to work to get it to them as many times and as consistently as possible, because the one thing you don't want to do is let your teammates down.
That comment here from Roosevelt Bouie Jr., Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum, here speaking on the current state of Syracuse men's basketball. Something else that we were speaking about when it comes to energy and to what you were seeing in the flair and this team. Q is somebody, Quadir Copeland, I've been telling people, and we had a conversation last season in Greensboro at the ACC tournament after Syracuse lost. And I said, Q, you're marked down as a combo guard. And he said, no, I'm a point guard. He said, I came here to play point guard. I came here to be the one. I'm not here to be a shooting guard. I'm not here to be the two. I'm here to play point guard. That's who I am. That's why I came here. I never forgot he said that to me. He didn't get a lot of time last year as a true freshman. He comes out this year, and you can say Judah's the point guard and Judah brings the ball up and this and that, but Q's been the guy with the vision. Q's been the guy with the no-look passes. Q's been the guy that's created a lot of energy on this team. We've seen, in my opinion, and you could tell me I'm totally wrong, but when it comes down to leadership, I've seen it from Q. You see his tenacity, you see his grit, you see his fight, you see that he's got the back of his teammates, You see that he's looking for his teammates. And in yesterday's game, the commentator said, well, at this point in the game, you're going to give the ball to Judah. Q had the ball. The ball didn't go to Judah. It stayed with Q. And then after that, he was like, oh, well, that's good to see that Adrian Autry trusts him. Quadir Copeland, in my opinion, has the opportunity, based on what I've seen, to be one of the best players that Syracuse has seen in the last decade. There's certain intangibles, there's certain just ways about him, and then there's things where you see that he really is, whether or not he's named the point guard and whether or not he's coming off the bench, that he's been more of a floor general than anyone we've seen, in my opinion, in the last couple of years. What is the Q factor to you, and how do you view Quadir Copeland?
Well, the one thing that you'll always find that I'll keep it as simple as possible. So there was never I don't look at players to play, to declare what their position is, seeming that your coach gives you what he wants you to do. Then you decide amongst each other. They should be asking themselves, what do we have to do to win?
Yeah.
What do we have to do to win? And whatever that solution comes down to, it could be pass the ball more, it could be penetrate, looking for people, it could be taking the tough shots. Whatever, each player should ask themselves, what do I have to do to help this team? What does this team need me to do to win? Not what I want to do. What does this team need me to do to win the game? And that sounds like that looks like Q. That looks like what he's doing. It's not rocket science. You go out there and the toughest player you ever want to come up against is somebody that will do anything it takes to win that game. Whether it's take the last shot, but they understand who he is, they understand his confidence level. It shouldn't be what he decides to do. It should be what the game dictates. Sometimes everybody else is thinking that Judah Mintz is going to get that shot, and they're going to overplay him. So the worst thing you could do is throw him the ball when he's being overplayed and put in a position to get double teamed.
Yeah.
You have to read what the game brings to you and then respond to it, and that's what's happening.
Well, I mean, and in that case, I think we came into this season with everybody anticipating from the outside looking in. I want to say everybody, but it seemed like better than half of the people out there, of the talking heads, so to speak, thought, hey, if it comes down to the wire, it's going to Judah. Now you have Q that has shown up. You have Chris Bell that has shown up. You have these other opportunities now. The multidimensionalness of Syracuse, if you will, this team seemingly was running through Judah in a lot of people's opinions, and maybe in other coaches and how they were keying in, because it seemed like that's the expectation, right? The ball is going to go to Judah. We got a double team Judah coming down the stretch. Now you have to make up for Q. You have to make up for Chris Bell. What are your thoughts on how Syracuse has kind of taken that as an advantage and said, okay, you know what? Key in on Judah. He's not a bad player. He just got to 1,000 points at the 16:59 mark of the second half last night against NC State, in just his 59th game in college as a true sophomore. He already has 1,000 points. We know that Judah can do some things, but we also know Q can, and Q has a couple game winners, and we know that Chris Bell can shoot lights out. They couldn't stop him no matter what was going on yesterday. So what can you say to the factor of Syracuse came in maybe appearing one-dimensional to talking heads, but they're obviously not one-dimensional, at least in my opinion?
Yeah, you lost me with the talking heads, because
yeah,
the worst, personally, I feel the worst thing that a player can do is get his marching orders from talking heads.
Amen.
They're looking. Your job is to see what's going on and try to figure out what is going on and what best to do with it. A player's point of view is, I've got to go out there and do what my coach asked me to do, and figure out what's the best thing for my team. For example, I remember Judah scored 30-something points in one game early, and I remember thinking to myself, that's great that he scored 30-something points. But I also saw that J.J. Starling only had 5 or 6 points. And me thinking moving forward, I said it would have been much better. Instead of him scoring 30-plus points, it would have been much better for him to score 22 or 23 points. And in doing so, after you get to those points, get some easy buckets for J.J. Starling. Get him up to 10, 12, 15, 17 points, because a lot of the shots that Judah was making during that game, he was going to the basket being played and double teamed. Somebody else had to be open, and normally it was J.J. Starling's man that was helping out. And the reason I said that is by scoring a bunch of points, you identify yourself as the person to be attacked.
Yeah.
And I said he identified himself as that key player, but had he scored 25 points and got his teammate another 17 or 18 points, he would have raised the whole level of Syracuse University, the team itself. Instead of being one person that they could key on, he would have been, because if they're double teaming him and he throws the ball to J.J. Starling, with a man running at J.J., he's impossible to stop.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Kadir. It's the same thing. So once you get guys moving, trying to help out on other people, both of these guys can handle the ball so well, and you've got to rotate and adjust. And the rotate and adjust, you just left open Bell from 3, or you just left somebody open with an open shot, just because they know that you're dangerous, but you utilize it to get the ball to people on the floor. It's that I always for the team. I always look at after playing with the great Edwin Moss. I always look for players that can come on the floor and make their teammates better. And by making your teammates better, you raise the whole level of Syracuse University basketball.
Yeah, and to that point, Rosie, I think last year, we saw Judah can score. We saw, in the street ball element of, every man for himself, he can score, but the leadership side was the thing that I was looking to. Is he elevating the program? Is he elevating the people around him? Is it just Judah, or are we seeing an evolution? When he was on the bench yesterday, the team seemed to be leveling up. So what is the Judah Mintz factor now in your opinion of things, as we know that he's capable of scoring, but leadership-wise, defense-wise, where you don't really see that from him? He does have a place on this team, and obviously he's done some really great things, but it seems to be that, like you said, when you mentioned the JJs, and shame on me for not adding JJ into that if the ball's in somebody's hands at the end of the game. But when you look at JJ and you look at Q and you look at Chris, there's this, Q can do his own thing. Last night he has a single game career high 25 points. But he also gives the ball up. He's also looking for other people. JJ will take his shot and make his shot, and then he'll start looking for other people. Chris Bell, as good as he's shooting, he's going down the floor and he'll dish it off to somebody. Sometimes he shoots it like hot potato, and other times he's maybe moving it around a little bit. But what is the Judah factor to this team when you talk about the difference between leveling yourself up and leveling the entire program?
Well, actually, it shouldn't be the Judah factor. It should be the orange factor. It should be them walking out there saying, okay, for example, we were relatively successful when I played at Syracuse. And the one thing that we always Coach Boeheim would give us our game plan. On the sideline, before the game would start, we'd be walking towards the jump ball, and we'd be talking amongst each other saying, okay, who's got the weakest link? Who's got the person that doesn't match up the best? Who do we have the best chance of scoring against? And we would decide that while we're walking, just walk out on the floor. We already know what the game plan is. We already know who we're supposed to look at, but then we get out there and see what matchup becomes problematic. And a lot of times it might have been Dale Shackelford, that was playing the 2 spot at 6'6", playing against a shooting guard. Everybody knows shooting guards don't like to play defense, so we'd put him on the low post and get the ball to him. And then it's being able to figure out that, okay, if they can't stop somebody, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Chris Bell was shooting 8 for 10. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You don't have to give them the ball all the time. Just come out there and say, hey, Chris, like what you're doing, evidently they got a problem. They're going to try to adjust to it. Be aware that there could be a double team coming and see where, and then at that point, Chris is able to raise the level of the team, because you got, anytime you can draw more than 2 people's attention towards you, then it's on you to find out where that other person. It's like they say in Italian, it's a coperta corta. It's like having a twin-size blanket on a king-size bed. You pull the cover over to one side, somebody on the other side is going to be uncovered. So you got to find that player and get that player the ball. That's what raises the level by each player that's on the floor. That's what makes them better.
And I love that. By the way, made my bed here a couple days ago, and you know, and like, you have to make sure that you buy the right sheets. And it's funny because my mom will say, well, you don't have a king size, you have a queen, but the mattress is so thick because it's the mattress plus the box spring and all that. I'm like, no, I got to buy the king or else I'm going to leave something uncovered. So I love that you use that analogy. Going off of that, are you surprised that, because one of the things that I've really been looking at this season is setting screens, creating opportunities, and I don't see Syracuse do it a lot. I don't see it consistently. And when Chris Bell is starting, he was 8 for 9 in the first half overall, and they were all from 3. That if you know that they're going to move to him now, that there's no setting of screen, there's no pick and roll, there's no this opportunity to break him free, because on the national championship team, we knew they were going to key in on Jerry McNamara. We knew once he started going that they were going to be on him, so they would set screens for him, and he would come off, and he would just pick and pop. He would grab that ball and go. Just that pick and pop, pick and pop, pick and pop. Somebody comes here, gives me a half a millisecond, I get that ball, I'm going to shoot it if I have a good look. And sometimes even if he didn't have a good look. So are you surprised in the lack of setting screens that we've seen from the team this season? I spoke with Adrian about it against Florida State, and he said, well, they switch well. And I said, okay, so, I mean, then the mentality is to not even try to give somebody an extra second. You know, to me, it's normal fundamentals of basketball, especially when somebody's hot, that you want to get them open and create opportunities for them. Because like you said, if I set a screen for them and they get open and somebody immediately adjusts to it, that means whoever's adjusting to it is leaving that other person open. So even if Chris Bell's a decoy, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't try to find him more in the second half. What is your take on the setting of screens and just the element of kind of going deeper into what you said, leaving somebody uncovered, creating opportunities for the hot hand?
Well, it's all about reading. It's all about reading what's happening on the floor. First of all, setting screens is it's an art. You got to be willing to. It also plays on the intelligence of the player. I played 16 years professionally, and I can't tell you one play that I ever ran, because I always parted from the point of view that whenever I wanted to get the ball, I would just go away from where the ball side and set a monster pick on the man away from me, leaving the guy coming to the ball completely wide open. At that point, everybody's panic stricken because somebody has to run and play that guy that's coming directly to the ball. The pick that I just set, the man I just picked, I never let him get back in front of me. I set the pick on him and I keep him behind me. So I don't care who shoots the ball. I've got great rebounding position. But you have to be able to understand that. You set the pick, keep that man behind you, and if that man's behind you, the guy that you picked is either going to be open, and if by some chance somebody switches on him, you're going to be open. And if that's not open, if the shot's taken, I'm going to get the rebound. These are things that they come with experience. Like I said, I played 16 years, so after a while, I just kind of figured out that, hey, you know what? If I do these things,
Yeah.
and I do them well, they're going to create enough problems on the floor so that nobody can pay attention directly to me because I'm moving around. It's all about the IQ of the player that's doing it, and you also got to give your body up. You've got to want to. You got to want to. You got to want the contact. I always make a definition that you can give me three guys, all the same height, same weight, same physical build, and put them underneath the basket, and within 7 seconds, I can tell you who's the center and who's the forward. Put them on the basket, and you say, okay, I'm going to throw the ball in. When I throw the ball in, I want you guys to get the ball and score as many times as you can in a row. Okay, it's a simple drill. When I throw the ball in, the players that step towards the ball to get it are forwards. The person that sees the ball coming turns around and knocks the crap out of the guy next to him and then goes to the ball. That's the center. Centers seek contact. Post players seek contact. Outside players seek the ball.
You know, I love speaking with you because, one, I love our friendship. Two, it's because you simplify the game. You bring it down to the fundamentals and its bones. And I'm always analyzing a game fundamentally. You know, I'm breaking it down to Syracuse typically doesn't box out. There's nobody that really seeks the contact underneath. And to that point, when you talk about the center versus, you know, the guy that wants the ball, the guy that wants this, who are your centers, who are your forwards? Well, right now, Syracuse, 7'4" center Naheem McLeod out for the season. 6'11" Munir Hima, we barely see. He has been available, but we see him in spurts. And Peter Carey also standing at 6'11". We didn't see last season when he was a true freshman, and they've said for the last couple games that he was injured. They said that it was an undisclosed injury the last time that Syracuse was home. It was an injury that Adrian Autry said he found out about closer to game time. So with a depletion of the center position for Syracuse, you're a big man. You're somebody who is a couple inches taller than me, not much, but a couple. And when we look at, you know, your game and what you did, and like you talked about seeking contact, Rosie, where do we go from here? How does Syracuse adjust? Because we can talk about recruiting and we can talk about what they need in the future, but we're playing right now, and recruiting's not going to do anything for Syracuse right now. So what does Syracuse do today? Is Malik Brown that guy to you that, even though he's not a center, is doing enough? Is he lacking the help? What needs to happen on this team in order to create more success down the stretch with more games to play in the regular season and the ACC tournament? Where do we go from here? Because you can't affect the stuff that's, you know, you can't affect the people that are injured. The decisions that have been made for the roster have been made for the roster. But I almost never see anybody box out when it comes to Syracuse. So where do we go from here?
What was the rebounding last night?
The rebounding last night. So that's interesting that you bring that up, because Syracuse's rebounding last night comparative to Georgia Tech, I think Georgia Tech was 47-21. Syracuse last night creating offensive rebounds for themselves. And I want to make sure I give the specific number here, so I want to make sure I give this right here. But when we look at Syracuse in most games, they've struggled on the glass, or they've won the glass, but not offensively. Rebounding wise, have they looked as sharp? Last night in the game, Syracuse going up on the road against NC State in their matchup, they end up winning this game 87-83. The rebounding wise, in the complete here that I can give you here, the exact numbers were that Syracuse had 10 offensive rebounds to 13 of NC State, 20 defensive rebounds to NC State's 19, and Syracuse had 30 total rebounds. NC State had 32.
You just answered your own question. What do you need to do? You need to play to your ability. Very, very plain and simple. If you don't have one main rebounder, then everybody's got to help out on rebounding.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can't say, we used to always hear, one year we used to hear all the time when they had, that they weren't big enough, they weren't strong enough underneath the basket. Never forget, we were 100 wins and 18 losses in our 4 years. Freshman year, I was 7 foot, 190 pounds. Louisor, 6'9", 169 pounds. It's not how big you are, it's who initiates contact. It's who's willing to make that contact, use his body to get that space. Because the rules of rebounding are very simple. If I get position, I can teach a 10-year-old that weighs 150 pounds how to box me out, because the rules of basketball will not allow me to pick him up and throw him out of the way. You get position, you hold that position, and then you create space, once you create space, it all depends on where the ball goes, and then you got to have 5 guys that are willing to go after that ball. What helped us rebound quite a bit is we talked all the time to the high post. The biggest danger to rebounding comes from the high post, from the foul line area. And that's because a guy standing underneath the basket, a big man standing underneath the basket, has less of a chance getting a rebounder from a man running down from the high post. So we used to always ask, I used to ask Hal Cohen, Ed Moss, and those guys, like, listen, when that guy runs past you, don't let him just run past you. When he gets next to you, give him a little bump, slow him down a split second. That rebound doesn't stay up in the air for like 4 seconds. It's up there a split second. You create the space, you get your teammates to slow down the guys coming to the ball, and then have them aware if the ball bounces long to go pick it up. It creates all kind of problems for the opposing team, and it allows you to run out and fast break more.
Well, and that's where my surprise is coming here in the boxing out, when it's, strictly fundamentals. And I played basketball my whole life, and as soon as the ball went up, it was put a body on somebody, right? Get contact, initiate contact with somebody, try to get yourself in front of them, and if you can't get yourself in front, like you said, create some type of contact. Get something on that person to slow them down for a little bit. And that ball would be up in the air going toward the basket, and guys would be bumping already, trying to kind of push you out of space. And in my case, at the time, I'm 5'5" in high school and 5'8" now, but 5'5" in high school, and they got a guy. I'm guarding forwards. I'm guarding a power forward with a head taller than me. So I'm not going to necessarily push everybody out of the way, but I can slow him down a little bit by the angles that I take and by the contact that I initiate. I'm just surprised that we're not seeing that. We're not seeing the boxing out presence. And a lot of times on the offensive side, we're seeing the shot goes up and half the team's down the court already, and we're not seeing that offensive rebounding. I was happy to see, and that's why it surprised me yesterday. The ball came off, and it came to Malik Brown. He hit it with his arm, and they were able to get an offensive rebound. And I think they got another one later on as well. But Rosie, you having that inside presence and knowing how important it was to understand you're not going to make every shot as a team, and to know that you have to slow guys down and create opportunities. What can this team do? To me, I feel like practice has to focus on boxing out, has to focus on creating contact, has to focus on putting a body on. It seems so simple when I say box out, but I say it because it doesn't happen. And I know it would happen in high school if I didn't box out, Rosie. I was standing on the line and I was running.
Well, there's you asked me what should they do? First of all, they are absolutely 100% capable of doing it because they did it last night. So any of the arguments that they don't know how to do it or they're not doing it right, if you can do it in one game, you can do it 30 games.
Yeah.
So my suggestion: go look at the tape, do what they did. They are capable of doing it. Rebounding is about desire. If you can't box out and create space, then you better be fleet of foot to get to where the ball goes. And if you can't get to it, tip it to your teammate. There's a bunch of ways to get around boxing out. Just use your head, and you got a perfect example. So you got a perfect example to look at by the game they played yesterday.
Yeah, and that, I mean, to me, it's the baseline. It's a baseline, fundamental, foundational piece of basketball. The leading rebounder last night came off the bench for Syracuse. Quadir Copeland, 7 rebounds, and he balanced himself. He had 3 on the offensive side, 4 on the defensive side. So again, to just what he's meant to this team, he scores 25 points, but he leads the team in rebounds, and he is balanced between the offensive glass and the defensive glass. Just what you could say to that factor, because you're talking about you throw it in, and the guy that pushes the guy out of the way is the center, the guy that goes for the ball is the forward. Well, in the case of Syracuse, having a guard that's willing to get after the glass as well as score, as well as finding his teammates, just what that piece of it, what to go back to Quadir for a second here, to know that your guard was your leading rebounder and that he wasn't rebounding on one side, but he was rebounding on both sides of the court last night.
Well, I have had this. It's funny you say that. There was I had a gentleman on my team that one year we won the European Championship, and had a gentleman by the name of Andrea Ginola. He was 6'2", kind of stocky. He was a two guard, and he was probably one of the best rebounders in key situations, because I come to find out he was 6'2", 6'2 and a half. And when he started playing basketball at age 13, he was 6'2". He was the tallest guy on the floor, so he played center his entire career.
Yeah.
And then guys started growing. They moved to forward. They moved to small forward. Then he moved to shooting guard, where he ended up staying. So he had the upbringing of playing around the basket and boxing out and going to the rebound. So whenever he was on the floor, I always knew that any rebound that came anywhere close to him, he was going to get it, for the simple fact that he would make contact and he would attack that rebound coming off, because he had a big man's mentality. And when I look at that's what I think of when I look at Q, because if you go back, I guarantee you go back and look at what he's done in the past, he's played some back to the basket often. And then when you're that athletic, you can move around different places on the floor. Dale Shackelford, the same thing. Dale Shackelford played center at Syracuse before I got there. Played forward when I got there. And then when Lewis started, he was playing the 3 spot, and then he would move to the 2. He played all positions, and if they needed to, he'd bring the ball up the floor. But when you imagine having him on the floor at the 2 spot and having 3 rebounders and having a long rebound goal, who do you think's going to get that ball? The guy that's accustomed to attacking the ball and going to get the rebound. If I see that ball going towards a Dale or towards Q, I'm not even going to wait around. I'm going to beat foot down there and try to get a fast break or get a mismatch going the other way. These are things that they can depend on. Now you want to be consistent, because he's going to do that. He's going to be consistent. He's going to go after the ball. He's going to be aggressive. And the other thing is, other guys coming off the bench can see, like, hey, he did that and he played more. How about I do the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I always think back to Boeheim when he says my starters aren't necessarily the guys that start the game. Look at the minutes. Q played more than half the game. Final notes here, Rosie. It's Boeheim Day this Saturday, February 24th, in the Dome at noon against Notre Dame. Just what you want to say about, this is the first season in almost 5 decades where Jim Boeheim's not the head coach. So just your thoughts on Boeheim Day, and a final note on the team, that if it's something we didn't cover today or something you just want to bang the drum home on a little bit more.
Well, I think we pretty much covered everything from soup to nuts.
Yeah.
But on Coach Boeheim Day, it's really funny, because the whole day we're on I was just checking before we started, and I got a text from Marty Burns, and he says, "See you on Saturday." So there's guys coming in from all over the place. I got texts from Sean Kearns and Hal Cohen. So there are a bunch of guys that are going to be getting together. It's a time for us to get together to show our appreciation for what Coach Boeheim did for Syracuse University, what he did for us. And it'll be a good time altogether. I hope they break all kind of attendance records and everything. But regardless of that, get the team out there and they'll understand what it's like. The guys that are playing will understand what it's like that the uniform that they're wearing. The guys that they see out there to support Coach Boeheim are the reason that they had the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously when you look at the coaching staff and the connections that they have to Coach B with Alan Griffin and Jerry McNamara and of course, Adrian Autry. So a lot of great stuff coming up. As always, Rosie, thanks for breaking down the game with me and having some fun. I love these conversations, and hopefully you and I will get to see each other this weekend because it's been way too long since we've been able to spend some time together in the same room. So I hope we get to do that this weekend.
It'll be my pleasure. Take care now, my friend.
Take care. Be well. God bless. I'll talk to you soon.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
See you. That coming from Roosevelt Bouie Jr. here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take a final step aside of the show today, and we're being up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe by finding us on our YouTube channel as well as on Facebook and Podbean. YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. We'll be back right after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbeville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career, it's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York is our sports card shop of choice. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. You will find everything you need. If you've just starting to collect cards or if you've been collecting your entire life, you will find all of it. Singles, graded cards, packs, boxes, as well as everything you need to protect your cards. They have the cardboard boxes, the top loaders, all different sizes of top loaders, one-touch cases, as well as the sleeves that you need, the binders, the sheets for the binders as well. You'll find basketball, baseball, football, hockey, all sport, soccer, AEW, as well as Pokemon and the new Disney Lorcana. All you have to do is make your way over to 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, and see what it's like to have great service from great people who love the hobby itself. They're big fans of the hobby. They get themselves involved in it. They're opening boxes and packs all the time. They're collectors. And to me, the best people to sell a product are the people that believe in the product. And when it comes to Josh and Anthony and Joel and Alex, they're out there throughout the week looking stuff up, checking stuff out, buying different pieces, showing me different things. Alex brings in his collection. Anthony and I'll start talking about something. He'll be online saying, look at what we're going to be bringing in. Is there anything that you like? Is there anything that you're looking for? And Josh and I have conversations all the time about this and that, and what's in, what's new, what's different. He'll check the cards and say, hey, you should grade this one. You should send this one off. They go the extra mile. They do things they don't have to do, right? Sometimes you go into a card shop, nobody talks to you, you pick out a pack of cards, the guy mumbles the price, you leave. That's not the experience that I want. The experience that I get at GG Cards and Breaks, to me, is an experience that keeps me coming back all the time. It makes me want to go in there every single day because I like the people, I appreciate them, I want to see them win, I want to see them pull awesome cards out of packs and boxes. They want to see me do the same thing. It's a great environment where they know their customers, they know the things that you like, they know the players and the teams that you're looking for, and they're the only place that I know that provides football, basketball, and baseball to every fan. When it comes to MLB, NFL, and NBA, they have every single team's box on the back wall. So I am a fan of teams that are all over. I'm a Toronto Raptors fan. I'm an Arizona Diamondback fan. I'm a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. Nowhere else can I go where I can go into one store and find a box of cards of each of those teams and be able to look through them. And not find just base cards. I'm finding autograph cards, rookie cards, numbered cards, patch cards within these boxes, taking them home and improving my collection. Single-handedly, because of GG Cards and Breaks, my Arizona Diamondbacks collection went from a little bit to the nth degree. And that's because they provide the extra personal connection. They provide that one step further, 10 steps further. And I appreciate it very much so, which is why I'm happy to talk about it all throughout the week. GG Cards and Breaks. We'll see you there this week, by the way. Thursday, February 22nd from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. for Trade Night. Do not miss it. Trade Night is back at the store this month, Thursday, February 22nd, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. I cannot wait. All different ages come. It is an absolutely awesome experience. I always have a great time. Love seeing other people's cards. Love bringing my cards out. Buy, sell, and trade this Thursday, February 22nd, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at GG Cards and Breaks on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. And of course, while you're in the store, everything in the store you can purchase as well. So there's a lot of great stuff in the store for you to get while you're there buying, selling, and trading with your friends and with new friends that you'll be making this week. GG Cards and Breaks. Come and see the difference. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I do want to make a note. While we were on our fast break, we got an email from Syracuse that the statistics were wrong. So for those of you last night that were watching the game and you saw 3 different scores, you were watching on ESPN2 and the score was 55-40. And then on ESPN.com, the score was 55-39 at halftime. And then if you were on Cuse.com, the score was like 54-38 or 52-38. So there was 3 different scores going on. And I want to make sure that I give you the corrected box score, which I just received from Syracuse. And so thanks to Syracuse Athletics Department for sending this over. And so rebounding for Syracuse, they had 11 offensive rebounds, 20 defensive for 31. And on the other side, there were 14 offensive rebounds, 18 defensive rebounds for 32. So Syracuse was out rebounded by 1. And both teams getting over 10 offensive rebounds apiece. It would be great to see Syracuse do this consistently, which would put them in a better position to win games. Turnovers, Syracuse 15 and NC State 19. Points in the paint, Syracuse 34, NC State 36. Second chance points, Syracuse 8, NC State 16. Fast break, Syracuse led 16-12. And bench points, 25 for Syracuse, all coming from Quadir Copeland to 28 from NC State. So think about that. NC State, looking at this right now here, let's see. They had 4 players come off of their bench to combine for 28 points. Quadir Copeland came off of Syracuse's bench and scored 25 by himself. So he almost equaled 4 players on the bench of NC State. He was only short by 3 points in this. And then taking a look at the rest of this here, everything, I don't think there's anything else we talked about that I would have to change from this, but I got the updated box score from Syracuse University during the fast break, and so wanted to share that with you. I also will be talking about the quad 1, 2, 3, and 4 situation. We're going to do that in a small broadcast, a kind of special extra bonus broadcast, a wake-up call after this morning's show, because I promised I'd go through it, but I want to go through it separately here and just, have the quad and NET ranking conversation separately. So we're going to do that in a broadcast right after this one. So stay close to our social media. It'll be on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, and Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. Big time thanks for you watching and listening every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com worldwide. Speaking of worldwide, once the show goes live, it will come to all of these locations for you, and you can connect with every single one of them where sports meets that thing called life. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, to find us on all of these outlets. And when you do, make sure that you like it, you follow it, you subscribe to it, so that you can stay connected with us on any one of your outlets of choice when it comes to listening back to the show. Once again, go to any one of these places and search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big time thanks to our wonderful and incredible partners here in Central and Upstate New York, Carvel DeWitt, where today and every Wednesday you can get a buy one, get one Sunday, and that includes the DT Dolphin. So you can go there today. Don't let the cold weather fool you, folks. You can go there today and get yourself a DT Dolphin mint chocolate chip topped off with whipped cream, cherry, hot fudge, green and gold sprinkles, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of the whipped cream. It is phenomenal. So make sure you go and get it today, exclusively on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. You can also go to the Wildcat Sports Pub, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, which I call the snack capital, GG Cards and Breaks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicoli's, Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, Mother's Cupboard, where you can get the Cuse McMother, my spin on the breakfast sandwich, available 7 days a week on 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, at Mother's Cupboard exclusively. The Cuse McMother. It is bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and eat it with syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. The Cuse McMother is an everyday thing from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Mother's Cupboard. Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. Do want to make mention, we just did our newest edition of The Light Between Us featuring Beth Landers. Go and see her story on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. It is a great opportunity for some positivity in your life. We talk about very difficult things. We talk about suicide, giving up, depression, sadness, and a positive message to navigate through all of that we want to share with you. So we're meeting you where you're at. Whatever's going on in your life, however you're feeling, we wanted to spread some positivity to you. We do that with The Light Between Us monthly on Wake Up Call, proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. And Beth tells her wonderful story and gives some incredible advice to the world. So however you're hurting, wherever you're hurting, go ahead and go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and watch The Light Between Us with Beth and be inspired. She's a ray of sunshine, and I know we all need it, so I hope you go and take a look at it. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner with the LeMoyne College Dolphins, Dan Tortora Broadcast Media as a whole, and very happy to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner with the LeMoyne College Dolphins, which means that every Wednesday, including today, you will find your Dolphins Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for our Dolphin Time. And on the first and third Wednesday of each month, AD and DT, featuring Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Second and fourth Wednesday, you will find the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. All of this content with Bob Beretta, with Dr. Lindo Lemura, the president, and the coaches and student athletes across all of their programs can be found by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Hit subscribe and the notification bell, and you will find the LeMoyne Dolphins playlist on our YouTube channel. You'll also find the Dolphins on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com, and as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you the Bobcat Buzz, a spotlight on the Bobcats, unlike ever before, found with all of their sports, and bringing you a year-round coverage of the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats. You will find the Bobcats with men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball currently going on, and baseball coming up this season here for their second season after their inaugural season at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse last year. And you'll find esports, which we just got to feature our initial esports conversation with new head coach Connor Carroll. A lot of great stuff coming up with the Bobcats, and you can find all of it, including our history, by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, clicking subscribe, hitting the notification bell, and seeing our BSC Syracuse Bobcats playlist. You can also find the Bobcats on the homepage of wakeupcalldt.com and on the exclusive partner tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And as always, go Bobcats. Here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I'm very excited to tell you that in about a week's time, we have that very special announcement coming. I can't tell you what it is. I want to tell you what it is. I can't. I'm being very patient about it, but we have a huge announcement coming up for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora next Friday, March 1st at noon Eastern Time. So we're going to do the show like we normally do, 9 to 11, And then at noon, I'm going to unveil the big time news. And I'm so very excited about that. A lot of great things coming up Friday, March 1st at noon Eastern time. Big time thanks inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's poppin' to my guest today for hour number 1, Liz Beville, the women's lacrosse head coach for the LeMoyne Dolphins program in their return to Division I, getting a victory in their first game back to Division I after going 117-84 from 1999 to 2010 when they were part of the MAC. And now with Liz Beville getting a Division I victory in your first Division I opportunity in your return. Big time congratulations. They have 3 games in the state of New York on the road coming up, Niagara being the next one, and then we will find them at home on Saturday, March 9th, and that game will be inside of the NEC. So they'll have their first NEC game ever, and that'll be happening at Ted Grant Field. Very excited for that coming up in early March. Big time thanks to our guest of the second hour, Roosevelt Bouie Jr., part of Syracuse history, won 100 games in 4 years with his teammates at Syracuse under Jim Boeheim, and broke down the Syracuse basketball team in 2023-24 with me today. Always love his expertise, his conversation, and just really getting to the point in the nitty-gritty of things and breaking it down with us. I love the conversations, and above all of that, I love the friendship. Rosie's been good to me for many, many years now, and I appreciate him so very much, and always love talking with him. So I'm happy we got to speak with Liz today, as well as with Rosie, 2 wonderful guests who I truly appreciate and feel spoiled that we have them in our community. So with that being said, find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And as I always share with you, and I mean with all my heart, God bless, no stress, do your best. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you today for an early dinner, 5:15 p.m., on-site on location at Avicoli's with the Liverpool boys basketball team. Ryan Blackwell and the crew join me today, February 21st at 5:15 p.m., on-site on location at Avicoli's, 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, right down the road, walking distance from Liverpool High School. Can't wait to see you tonight and put a spotlight on Liverpool boys basketball. Take care in the meantime, and God bless.